even if you have been training for years, there's still things that you can learn in every single training cycle, every single training week, even every single training session. So this is a look at some block pulls that I was doing just this past week, and yes, lower stomach protrusion, I guess you could call it, or some individuals like to call it FUPA. If you don't know what that is, then don't look it up. That is completely normal. That is just your stomach expanding. It doesn't mean you're fat. I made a post about this on my Instagram. Essentially, if you're bracing correctly, you should be expanding your abdominal wall into your belt, and you shouldn't be sucking your stomach in. So if you're properly doing this and you're properly bracing, your abdominals are not going to be flat. They're not going to look like an Instagram picture that you see where, girls have flat stomachs and six packs while they're deadlifting. It's unless you're stage lean. Even when I'm stage lean, I still have the little pouch, I guess you could call it. So it's not fat, it's just properly bracing. So on this day, this was in the afternoon, I learned an important lesson. So earlier that week, and then also the week before, I had tried to do block pulls on 2 different days in the morning, so early in the morning. On a little dance, that's one of my many talents. So early in the morning, I tried to do block pulls, and from experience, this does not work well with my back. So I've had a history of lower back injuries, and I talked about this on my Instagram. I've been sharing a little bit more, I guess you could say, tidbits of information on my Instagram story, which is the story that deletes or goes away after 24 hours. So I've been sharing more training information there if you all are interested, and want to keep up on that. However, something that I was talking about was the fact that I was trying to train in the morning and why this is terrible for me. So I've had a history of lower back injury and lower back pain, and I've noticed that when I train in the morning, it just feels awful. I feel like my hips are like separated essentially from my back. It just does not feel good. So this was a pull day, so I also did back. This is one of my favorite back exercises with the cables. Just allows for a greater range of motion, takes the pressure off my lumbar, and so I was noticing that when I train in the evening, my back just feels a lot better. And quick side note, these are calf raises. I still do calves 2 times a week, so don't neglect your calves if you are a bodybuilder. I do seated and usually either leg press or standing. And formerly, I guess you could say, a few months ago, I was talking to my chiropractor, and we just were talking about disc regeneration. So discs in your lower back essentially regenerate overnight and are filled with fluid first thing in the morning. So they're more prone to slipping, they're more prone to injury. And as you're up during the day, as you move around, after you wake up, your discs slowly compress, and they're not as prone to injury when they're not full of fluid and they're not well hydrated after a good night's sleep. So after a night's sleep, it's probably not the best thing to go and try to deadlift first thing in the morning, squat or deadlift, or do some sort of heavy compound back lift, because that is when your disc will be the most prone to injury. So for me, since I have a history of lower back injury and issues, that is a bad time for me to go and try to squat or deadlift heavy. So as a result, this past week, it just occurred to me, I was like, why have my lifts just been going terrible, especially on block pulls? Well, it's because I was trying to lift in the morning. The one change I made this past week was simply waiting until the afternoon to do my next day of block pulls, and each set of block pulls felt like an RP of like 7, meaning I have 3 reps left in the tank, whereas earlier in the week I was trying to do it in the morning. And I just noticed for myself that I just don't feel good in the morning in general trying to lift, unless it's just accessory work. And so when I switched to the afternoon, I felt so good. And whereas previously the week before, the RP was like 10, I had to drop the weight to 275 pounds from 320, even though then just a few days later, shifting it to the afternoon also could be other factors like getting more sleep and just being in a better mindset for the lifting session. but overall just a much better lifting session. So keep that in mind, especially if you have lower back or lumbar issues and a history of disc issues. So here is 275 pounds. I did sets of 9 on these, and then on my last set, this is the last set shown here, I did a set of 10. So what I've been doing 1 to 2 times per week is still keeping back squats in. I don't want to lose my skill on that lift. I love back squats, but I'm giving my body a little bit of a break and detraining it a little bit, I guess you could say, in terms of squats. So I had worked my way up to squatting 4 times per week back when powerlifting was my only, well, not only focus. I was still doing bodybuilding work, but my main focus, and I was getting ready for nationals for last year. So we had worked up my frequency to 4 times per week, and it was just not sustainable for me. Talk to anyone who squats 4 days per week, they likely have elbow issues, they likely have shoulder issues, and it wasn't so much my legs that were taking a toll, it was my upper body. Because think about having 315 pounds on your back, especially as a female with smaller joints. That's a lot of pressure on your wrists, that's a lot of pressure on your elbows. Our legs are pretty, I'd say pretty comparable to men's in terms of strength. It's a bit more of an even playing field, I guess you could say, pound for pound strength. But upper body, definitely not the same. Oh, just to note, this was 500 pounds for sets of 10, I believe, on leg press, and that felt really good, as you can see by my dance. But so next I moved into GHR, so this is just showing you something I really like to do. I always like to follow GHR with, or just the ham raise part of the GHR with glute raises, so I like to do them separately, so you'll see me transition into that. But yeah, so as I was saying, just making sure that I am I'm still keeping in back squats, but I definitely do not want to feel those effects that I was feeling last year, where my elbows were going and my shoulders started to hurt from having the bar on my back so much. So it's been a nice break, but I still hit legs hard 2 times per week and loving it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of an update, and as always, feel free to follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, where I post more updates. I've been posting more things as well on my Instagram story, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks!